Welcome back, everybody, to the Nosebleed Sports Podcast. I am Chris Witt, and with me, as always, is Mr. Adam Schmidt. Adam, how are you today, sir?
I'm spectacular. I'm excited because it actually looks like we have a little bit of like production quality to our podcast now because we have backgrounds, which is
Yeah.
probably the simplest thing you can possibly do on Zoom, but I just now figured it out. And then and then you saw that I had a background, and then it took you like 2 seconds to figure it out yourself. And it took me, I've looked into that like 3 times.
Yeah, I don't know. I got lucky. I sprang upon it with luck, but I'm loving the new digs. It feels good. It feels good, and we got good news that there's really good chance that we could be doing the podcast in studio by the end of the year.
Yeah, I expect.
Do you agree
so.
with that?
I definitely
Okay.
expect. Yeah.
I've just been hearing a lot of things, and it sounds like that's a very good possibility. We get Adam out of hiding, we get him into the new digs here at the podcast center, and we're ready to go.
I cannot wait. And I told you that I was doing fine, and I didn't ask you how you were doing. How are you doing, Chris?
Buddy, if I was any better, I'd be twins.
Hey, you have twins, so you know all about that. All right.
All right, we'll switch it up. How am I doing? Hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit.
Like a hair on a biscuit?
Hair like a hair in a biscuit.
Hair in a
Hanging
biscuit.
in there. Hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit.
Okay. I feel like that could be interpreted many different ways. And we're just going to go with the first thing that actually came to my mind, which was like a biscuit that you would get from like a KFC or something like that. And there's a hair in it. That's the first thing I actually thought of.
What other way could that possibly go?
That was the first thing I thought of. And then I thought, well, is that a euphemism for something? Like, is he saying something else?
Like, what is the biscuit? Like, what's the biscuit?
Yeah.
Like, is the biscuit a euphemism for something? But the hair's still a hair.
Yeah. Is that a hair inside the nose with a booger on it or something? I didn't know what that was.
Okay. Sounds good. Nope. Just, hanging in there like a hair,
like a hair
in
on
an edible biscuit.
Just like your everyday regular hair in a biscuit.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. All right.
On that note, Adam, listen, we got, as we talk about hair and biscuits and how we're feeling.
How is this going to transition?
Something broke yesterday, and there's a guy not feeling good. We've got Tiger Woods, who was involved in a single car accident, which I keep talking about a single car accident, like making a very big deal about the single car accident. I don't think that's that big of a deal. Single car accidents happen all the time. The big thing is Mr. Tiger Woods rolled the car, flipped it. It's all mangled. His knees mangled, his legs mangled, his ankles mangled. He's got fibulas and rods and screws and everything you can imagine in his legs right now. But yeah, bad news in the front, man. It was really scary there for a little while. Nobody really knew what was going on.
Yeah, Rod Scaroo, as what I feel.
Rod Scaroo. I kind of like that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was scary. I didn't hear it. I didn't hear about it until later in the day. And then that's all I've heard about all last night and all day today. And at first it was the first thing you hear about is it's a scary thing. It's like you said, a one car accident, and he flipped it, and it's he had multiple fractures in his leg, and you think, oh my gosh. And then they say pretty quickly that his injuries were non-life threatening, which that was the biggest thing. So that
it was because the car looked mangled, right? And you see that, and we're so close. It's still so close to what happened with Kobe. And you're talking about one of the top two golfers to ever play the game of golf. Yeah. You'd easily make it to where during his peak, there was no one that's ever been better at golf than Tiger Woods. And to think about what happened to Kobe, one of the greatest ever, and if that's something horrible, just to think of something horrible possibly happening. There's been so much over the past year and a half, and it would have been terrible. I mean, it still is terrible, but it would have been even worse. It could have been even worse.
Yeah, it could have been, and we're still getting a lot of information. There's still a lot of information that we're waiting on, sort of that, you know, what exactly did happen. It seems like the biggest speculation, which is starting, maybe it's based on something now because I've heard so many people say that, is that he was just going too fast and went around a bend or whatever, and lost control of his car. I don't think there's um, any confirmation on if that's exactly what happened, but from what it sounds like, that was it. There was no ice. They haven't said anything. It was like, wasn't it like 7 o'clock in the morning or something like that? So I don't think, I'm pretty
Yep.
sure that's what it
Seven
was.
o'clock on his way to a photo shoot at a golf course, and I was listening to somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about how they travel on that road a lot. It's not busy at all with COVID and everything in California, but it is a 4-lane highway, and they said it is very, very easy to speed, and so much so that it has signs up about braking and downshifting for truckers and things like that. Make sure you're slowing down. So it's obviously somewhere where it can get bad quick. And I don't know, you can't make anything but a speculation, but it seems like that's what happened.
Yeah. So bottom line, like we said, Tiger Woods is okay. He's not, in his life is not in peril or anything like that. But from what I heard today, he's not complete. I was just going to say not completely out of the woods. He's not completely safe, I guess, because of the way that his leg broke. I didn't want to do it. I didn't mean to do it, but I was going to try not to, but it was coming out.
Too easy. It's too easy.
Too easy. So, because of the way his leg broke, and it was an acute fracture, I think, when it comes out of breaks through the skin. It's actually out. Your bone is outside of your body.
Compound fracture.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But that there's a greater risk for infection, from what I understand, when that happens. So, just like I think it was Alex Smith that almost lost first his life and then his leg. They almost had to cut it off when the same thing happened to him, because it was getting infected or whatever, and he actually had to make a decision whether to amputate or to try to rehab it and just see what happened. And he rehabbed it, and he's playing football again.
Yep.
So that's the thing, is people started talking today about, he's probably, did we see Tiger play his last round of golf? Is he ever going to play again? Probably not. Doesn't sound like it. He's gone through so many injuries. He's had the back stuff for a long time, and seems like a million back surgeries, and he's had all kinds of different things go on. And now this is obviously a major one that's going to take a long time to come back from. So
I at this point in time, though, right now, it's like with Alex Smith, when whenever nobody even thought of him coming back. When it first happened, you hear about this, then he goes through and he almost dies with the infections and all that. Like right now, I feel like it's more about, let's see if we can get Tiger to walk, right? Like, let's get Tiger walking. We don't need to worry. I just think about what his family just had to go through over this short period of time with this all going on. Golf is last. To be honest, golf's the last thing I'm thinking about. I'm just happy that Tiger's here, and that Tiger can hopefully be able to go to the Masters and wave and say hello to people. I don't care if he ever golfs again, to be honest.
Yeah. The lucky thing is, golf is a game that you can play pretty late into your life. It might be on the senior tour or whatever, but so he might not be playing, against or golfing against the younger guys for a major anymore. But whenever he's eligible, I don't know how old you have to be on the senior tour, but he's, I don't know, what is he, 45 or something like that now? Something mid 40s. So if it takes him 3 or 4 years to come back, and he might be able to swing a golf club again and do it well enough to compete with other professional golfers, even if it is on the senior tour, it's still a possibility, because he's not in his 60s, he's in his 40s.
Yep.
and guys golf into their 60s on that, you know.
And he's in really good shape for a guy who's 40 years old. So healing may be better, should be better than somebody else in their 40s that happens to.
So, but you're a huge Tiger fan, right?
I love Tiger Woods. I'm a huge Tiger Woods fan. When Tiger came back, I started watching golf again. When Tiger was gone, I wasn't watching golf. It was Tiger is I Tiger Woods. I'm a huge fan of Tiger Woods. We'll just put it that way. When he won that Masters, when he came back and hit that Masters and walked up and gave his kids a hug, we talked about it on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't cry at that point in time, like if you didn't have a little tear in your eye, that was, the comeback, everything that man had been through was really awesome.
Yeah, and I missed it, and I sort of remember seeing maybe a highlight or something. I don't know if it was earlier. It was like the middle of last year or early last year, something like that. He played in some, I don't know if it was like a pro-am thing or something like that with his son. I think he.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
He golfed with his son for something. I don't know. Maybe it was a charity thing or something like that. But
Yeah.
so yeah, that's another thing. And he's definitely a dad, and we don't have to talk about all the stuff that happened 10 years ago or however long that was now. And but speaking of that, did you see there's apparently a Tiger Woods documentary? Is it on, do you have HBO Max?
Yep. Yeah, it's on HBO.
It is on it. Okay. So everybody's been talking about it, and I haven't seen it, and I don't have
It is
HBO.
really cool. It is
Have you seen
really
it?
cool. Yeah, I have.
Okay. All right. I kind of want to see it. Like, I'm not a huge golf guy, and Tiger's fine. I understand he's great, but I'm not like I didn't have, my brother had a poster on his wall, but I didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
so, but I would love to hear about, or I would love to watch that documentary because I've heard how good it is. So you're okay if Tiger never plays again, if Tiger never golfs again, as long as he's good.
I'd love to see him come back and golf again, but at this point in time, and we've seen the best of Tiger Woods, and he could golf forever. I mean, he could do what Jack Nicklaus did and walk up there and hit the first tee, hit off the first tee at Augusta every single year, not play, just walk up there and hit. I just want to see the guy be able to walk. When you put like 6 screws or whatever it is in your ankle, buddy, you know how long that takes? That's going to take some time.
Yeah.
That's going shattered his ankle. His ankle is his Twitter. On Tiger's Twitter, there was a statement put out, and it basically told everything that happened to him. It had all the doctor terms for all the stuff that happened, and it was a lot. And that dude, he's got a lot of rehab coming.
Yep. Yeah, they had to.
So and to answer your question, I'm just happy. I'd just be happy to see that dude walking around and being a person again.
Yeah, I heard that they had to send a nurse to Home Depot to pick up more screws because it took so many. They didn't have enough screws in the hospital.
Ran out of stainless steel. Had to go get some more. Huh?
Sure. Yep. Okay. Well, we just wanted to address that, and I maybe if some big news within this story comes out in the next week, we'll talk about it again next week. But that's the probably the biggest sports story going on today, the day that we're recording.
Absolutely.
I had to say something about that. All right, so the next thing for us is the NBA All-Star Game. Now, if you don't follow the NBA closely, you might think, well, there's no possible chance that they're playing an All-Star Game this year when regular season games are being canceled because too many players have COVID or whatever. Nope, they're playing an All-Star Game.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
go ahead. Adam Silver.
Yeah, Adam Silver obviously was asked about it, and he kind of hemmed and hawed around, and basically what I got from it was, you know what, all the decisions we're making are risky because that's just the way everything is right now. It's a risk. We had to weigh all of our options, and we feel like this is the best thing. He said this is our game is so global. We feel like we owe it to the fans to put this on if we can do it, safely or whatever. And And he said, obviously there's going to be a risk involved, but we think it's the best thing to do. So, it certainly is going to is going to come down to money. There's not going to be any fans in the arena.
It has already come down to money. Oh, they're not going to be fans because now they just let 2,000 people in New York. So Brooklyn the other night, the Knicks just had. Oh, you're talking about at the All-Star game. Sorry, I was
Just at the
I'm
All-Star
jumping
game,
ahead. Go ahead.
which is going to be in Atlanta, mostly because and it wasn't supposed. This was the All-Star game that was supposed to be in Indianapolis this year, and which I 3 years ago when they announced it, I had a Post-it note up by my computer at my desk at home, just saying All-Star game and a money sign to remind me to save up money
Right.
to try to get a ticket to the
To get to the All-Star game. Yeah.
And so I threw that away when COVID started last year, or when they were shutting down. So anyway, it's in Atlanta mostly because TNT puts it on, and that's the headquarters, TNT headquarters. So I think that's the easiest way for them to do it. And I guess Georgia or Atlanta, their rules are in place so that they aren't supposed to have fans. I don't know if that's the case for Hawks games, if they're allowing any fans at all.
I don't know,
but I'm thinking probably not, because that's from what I understand, the mayor of Atlanta kind of had a say in that and said we can have it, but we're not having any people there.
Yeah.
So what is your take? I mean, does it make sense to play this All-Star game?
So I don't think it makes sense to play the All-Star game. Not real. I mean, and it doesn't matter how you feel about COVID right now. I don't care how you feel about that. The fact is, if you won't like the NBA and you want the NBA to finish a season, it doesn't make sense to bring guys from every single team together, the best players of every team together for a game, which if something breaks out, and normally they would quarantine a team, now you're quarantining the best players in the NBA for 2 weeks on all these different teams. That is what I don't understand. That makes zero sense to me. Outside of that, I'm glad they're playing it. I love the fact that they're going to give it a try. It just doesn't make sense in the fact that if something breaks out in this, there won't be a superstar playing for 2 weeks in the NBA. And they're about to go into they just released their schedule coming up, and they've got 2 months to play the second half of the season, and they are going to be playing 5 games a week. And that is not what these teams are used to. And if you that's 10 games that you're going to have superstars missing. So it's going to be, that part doesn't make a lot of sense to me. What about you? I already know what you think. You don't think they should be playing the NBA season?
No, I wish they could. I wish there was a way to still do the bubble thing, because that worked out really well. You can't play a whole season there, I guess. But yeah, the All-Star game is an exhibition, and as much as I love the All-Star game, and even more the All-Star Saturday night with the dunk contest and the 3-point contest and all that stuff.
Best part.
Yeah. And they are still doing that, and they're trying to
weren't they going to do it at halftime or something they were talking about?
So the skills challenge starts at 6:30. It's the skills challenge, and then the 3-point contest after that, and then the All-Star game is after the 3-point contest. So the All-Star game starts at 8, and then the dunk contest is at halftime. So they're trying to get it all in. There's no rookie, whatever they call it now, the rookie sophomore game, which is then
or
the US versus
the world. Yeah.
So that game's not there. So all the best players in their first couple of years won't be, they will be available for those first 2 weeks coming back, because unless they go to the strip club or whatever and for a salad or whatever.
No. It's the chicken wings. You got to get them chicken wings.
The strip club chicken wings. So as long as everybody stays away from those, we should be okay. But um, yeah, the superstars, like you said, if anything happens and everybody in that game has to be quarantined, then it's going to be rough those first couple weeks. But I'll tell you what, there's there are plenty of maybe not superstars, but all-star caliber players that would still be available that aren't going to be at this all-star game.
No, people like Devin Booker, DeMar DeRozan, Michael Conley Jr., De'Aaron Fox, Brandon Ingram, Trey Young. The list goes on and on.
It does go on and on. As a matter of fact, I have about 15 guys in the East and about 15 guys in the West that I wrote down that I think could be on this all-star team. And that's been the next biggest story, I think, today around most, at least NBA cities, the snubs. And I
The
wish I was
snubs.
smart enough to think of a better word for it so that I don't just use the same term everybody else is, but I'm not. So look, let's get this one out of the way. Devin Booker was the biggest one. Everybody started screaming about right away. Even all the players were talking about that one. And just a couple of hours ago, they announced that he is taking Anthony Davis's place. So Devin Booker is now in the All-Star game as a reserve.
Devin Booker's in. Devin Booker wasn't even the first person that I had on my list.
That's interesting because for all the attention he's gotten from players and media people and everybody about being the biggest snub, I kind of agree with you. There are a bunch of guys that you could say just as much as him deserve to be in.
Devin Booker is obviously he's been good this year. But with Chris Paul on that team, Chris Paul by far has been the all-star of that team. If you look at his numbers and what he's done for that team this year, Chris Paul should be the all-star from that team, and I don't know that they're good enough. I hate to say that, but I don't know how great they are that they should get two guys on. Anyway, where are they in the West? I don't even know where they're even ranked.
They're having a really good season. I don't have, that was another question I was going to have for you. I have no problem if they have two all-stars from that team because they have a better record than the Celtics, and the Celtics have two guys in. But that was the other thing is, does it matter to you, number one, what a team's win-loss record is for all-stars, how their team is doing, how much does that weigh in, and does that matter to you, like how many all-stars you should have? So the Utah Jazz, you mentioned, so Donovan Mitchell's in, Rudy Gobert's in. You mentioned Mike Conley Jr. as another guy who is not in, but is another probably deserving player. Utah Jazz have the best record in the league. Should they have three guys in just because of that, or does it matter if they don't have any?
You know what? It's the All-Star game. It's not about if you've got anybody, if you've got more than one or two or three guys. I think it's more about the fact that you've got, if you are a bad team, then you got people not playing well. So, there shouldn't be more than one person on that team, or else that team is, or else it doesn't make sense on why that team's not doing any good. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
It's I'm kind of on the fence about that. I don't feel like it should matter. But at the same time, like, the Spurs are having a much better season than most people anticipated. And they're like fourth or fifth, I think they're fourth in the West, and they don't have anybody. So that's I think one of the better examples, and most people are saying, well, DeMar DeRozan deserves it. Yep. If you look at his numbers, yeah, he probably does. But join the club, join the list of.
Exactly. The list is long. Now, so I'll tell you the one guy that I would put in there that I think should probably have the biggest is Trey Young. I feel like Trey Young, he is the leader of that team. There's no, he by far, he has more points per game, more assists per game, and like 2 less rebounds per game than Paul George. So I don't, I'd be halfway okay if PG didn't make it and Trey Young made it. That's the whole thing. We decided when we talk about this, if you're going to make a case for somebody, come back and You got to figure out who they're going to replace, because Paul George is. I mean, Paul George. Paul George is having a great year, but where do you've got to find it? A lot of people were talking about Rudy Gobert because Rudy Gobert is more of rebound and defense, right? And people talk about that, but he's literally, I think he's like one. Is he third in defensive efficiency or something like that in the entire league? Like the dude's,
Yeah.
Like that's if we're just all of a sudden going to stop talking about defense, then this league is going to be a 150 point scoring league every game. Nobody wants that. So I think it's good that they give a guy like Rudy Gobert a chance to be in that all-star game for what he's done specifically on the defensive end. So I'm totally good with the Rudy Gobert deal.
So you're saying Rudy Gobert should not be in?
Should be on. I'm good with him being in.
Okay.
Being
and
in.
he
Yeah.
is. Okay. So he is a reserve.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you have, I mean, you said Trae Young, and I actually agree. If I was going to really push for anybody, it's probably Trae Young. That's where that whole thing, Atlanta is not a good team. So how much does that matter? Should he, if his stats individually are a little bit better than somebody else who made it, whose team is better, should that matter, or should it just kind of go by stats? Your individual, this is basically an individual award, kind of. Your team's not being voted into the All-Star game. You are being voted in. So,
right. So in that case, then it should be an individual.
And then you mentioned Trae Young for Paul George. That's an Eastern Conference and Western Conference. Should that's another.
I didn't even pay attention to that. That's my fault.
But no. But that's exactly what that helps me bring this point up too. If you're going to do it, and I think we've talked about this the last couple of years, probably since they started doing it this way. If you're going to have, vote Eastern Conference and Western Conference separately, but then put all those players in a pool and have the two leading vote getters pick from any one of those players, then it's not Eastern Conference versus Western Conference anymore. So then it shouldn't matter. So then you should be able to do a Trae Young over Paul George if you want to do that swap. That's not the way they set it up.
I'll be interested to see Zach LaVine and Jason Tatum's numbers. I have to look at their numbers, but I'm sure I could make it. I'm sure if you gave me 3 minutes, I could make a case for Trae Young over either Jason Tatum or Zach LaVine. Julius Randle, a lot of people are giving him crap, but I mean, Julius Randle's had a fantastic season, and that Knicks team is going to be a playoff team for the first time in 475 years.
Yeah. Julius Randle is having an awesome year. I'm really glad to see that he made it. I think he definitely deserves it. There are guys that average more points or whatever, like Trae Young averages 27 and Julius Randle averages 23, but Julius Randle gives you 11 rebounds and 5.5 assists a game. And he's shooting like 40% from three, which is outstanding. I think I saw, he made, it was like 31 threes through his first 4 seasons, and he's made 57 already this year alone.
Wow.
So he improved his shooting like crazy. And I've been a big Julius Randle fan since he got into the league. I loved watching. I
love at Kentucky. That kid was fun to watch at Kentucky because he plays hard all the time, and he'd get physical when he needed to get physical, and he could play with the ball in his hands when he needed to. I loved him at Kentucky.
He was kind of the first Zion Williamson. I mean, he has that same style, I guess. Zion is ahead of Julius Randle as far as how good of a player he is. And Zion's another guy. He's one of the Western Conference reserves. And there are other people you can probably argue over Zion. Brandon Ingram, his own teammate. You could probably make an argument for Brandon Ingram over Zion to be in the All-Star game. I'm glad Zion's in because I love watching the guy play. Hopefully they match up. That would be cool to see Zion and Julius Randle match up against each other in the All-Star game. So anyway,
you want to see the defense? You want to see You want to see those two play defense against each other? Because if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to get it in the All-Star game.
You're right. I'm not. That's the worst part about the All-Star game. But
we might have what's the over under on the game? Is it 400 yet? Have they got it to 400? I mean, they've been scoring 180 for the last few years. Is it going to get to 400?
I mean, it wouldn't be that surprising. But they are doing that Elam ending thing now for the second year in a row, where at the end of the third quarter, you add, I forget how they did it. They added like 27 points or whatever it was to the leading team's total. And then the first team to that number wins. And we saw, it was, I think Anthony Davis hit like a free throw to win the game or something.
Yeah,
At
made
the
a
end,
free throw to win the game.
which was a little anticlimactic, but what led up to that was really exciting. It was, they knew
Right.
so like, you're not doing that, if you kind of get close, you foul and all that kind of stuff. I think that's kind of to stop from that happening, which wouldn't happen in the All-Star game anyway.
So I was gonna say, it's not going to happen in the All-Star game anyway.
But it was exciting though, when you get that number and teams are like playing, kind of playing a little bit harder on defense, I think, to try to get stops so that they can catch up and then be able to battle for that number rather than playing against the clock. So they are doing that again this year. I don't think we know who's in the dunk contest, 3-point contest, or skills challenge yet. So that's yet to be announced. So before we're done with this, do you have anybody that you really want to make that argument for? I mean, do you want to say Trae Young definitely over Jason Tatum or Zach LaVine, or do you have?
I feel like Trae Young should be in this game. And if I'm going to put him in, I mean, I'm probably going to try to make a case against Zach LaVine because I could probably do a better job. Because Jason Tatum is one of my favorite players to watch. So I kind of want Jason Tatum in there too. And Zach LaVine has become a phenomenal scorer in Chicago. So, I mean, like we said, if you're not going to make an argument, and I could make an argument, but I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go. I'm good with what they did. I probably would rather see somehow them get the name Trae Young in there just because of who he is. And in a 100% offensive game, to see the kind of weird, crazy shots he would throw up and make in a game would be kind of fun, to see the Steph Curry half court shots that him and maybe would go back and forth with would be enjoyable. But no, I'm good. Let's do it. Let's keep it the way it is. Everybody stop complaining. We're good.
My memory is terrible, but didn't Trae Young win the skills challenge a couple years ago, or maybe even last year?
I don't know. It seems like big guys are the only ones that win the skills challenge anymore.
Yeah. I don't know, or maybe it was the year they team them up. They had like teams, or I forget. But so maybe Trae Young will be in the 3-point contest or the skills challenge or something like that. But I'm with you though. I wanted to I wanted to find somebody to make a case for and against to swap out. I just can't find a guy that I think shouldn't be in there because somebody else deserves it more. I think
if one of these guys were in there, whoever they took the place of, we'd be fighting like hell for that guy to be in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I have 20, 25 guys in each league that I think should be all-stars, like even at least between the reserves and the guys who didn't make it.
Right.
So anyway, I Trae Young definitely has been mentioned several times. Domantas Sabonis is a guy whose name quite a few people have talked about, should be in there. Somebody said him over Vucevic, and somebody said
no way. That Vucevic kid, that dude is that guy. I could make a case for him to be a starter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would have to be over.
No, that's going a little.
I know what you mean.
It's not happening. But what I'm saying is that guy deserves it as much as anyone on either one of those lists.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. We're just going to keep coming back to that. But there might be a couple. Actually, who knows? A bunch of these guys might back out, and they're probably going to get fined or in some sort of trouble because the NBA is going through the trouble of putting this thing on. They want everybody to be there.
No way. No, you can't the NBA is, I guarantee there is no way the NBA will find any of these guys if they say they don't want to be in this because of COVID. Are you kidding me? That goes against every COVID rule there is out there. There's no chance that the NBA would win against the Players Association if a player says he doesn't feel comfortable with playing in that game.
Yeah, you're right. And also, they can just do what guys have done in basketball and baseball and probably football for years and years and just say, "Oh man, I've got this nagging injury I've been playing through. I really need this weekend to let it rest," and just claim an injury or something like that.
You won't even have to this year. Just say you're not comfortable with the COVID thing. Doesn't make any sense why we're bringing 30 teams together on a court and having an opportunity for the best players to not be able to play. Doesn't make any sense at all. With the rules they have in place for if you are in contact with someone with COVID, because of those rules that they have, it makes zero sense to play this game. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally in for it. And COVID or no COVID, I'm like, go ahead, let's go play. But with the rules they have in place with contact tracing, they could screw their league up for 2 weeks.
You're right. But I'm sure that everybody's going to have to get tested 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times when they get to Atlanta before they get into. I'm sure they'll probably do some sort of a bubble thing in Atlanta specifically for that. That would make sense to do because you only got to be there for a couple of days.
But if you got it the day before you came or the day you're there or something like that, you get test negative right before, and then all the way they do a test right before the game starts. You're out there playing when the test comes back and they're like, oh, we got to get him off the court. Well, he's already been in contact with every dude out there.
Yeah, it could. I'm sure
look at the guy for the Dodgers.
Justin Turner.
Justin Turner pulled out in the middle of the game because his day of test came back negative. In the 5th inning, 6th inning, he comes out of. If they play 5/7 of a game in this NBA All-Star game, every single one of those guys will have to sit out for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So hopefully they'll be okay though. The guys that are going, I tell you, some of these, especially these first time guys, it's so cool when they get like their families and stuff involved in telling them.
Yep.
Julius Randle's is right before or like maybe even during their game, they had his mom up on the Jumbotron and she's talking to him and stuff. And announcing that, and they did the same thing with Zach LaVine. They told him that he was going to, did you see that? They told him he was coming on a Zoom call with some national media people, and he got on there and they set it up so that his parents came on. They announced like, this is so-and-so from, Atlanta,
right.
Whatever, some publication there. And then his parents came up and he was like, oh my God.
That's cool.
And they talked for a few minutes, and then they did this, and then they did right after they got done talking to them, they stayed on, but then they said, okay, so this next person is this so-and-so media member, and they brought up Jamal Crawford. So I guess those two are pretty close. And so Jamal Crawford just got on there to congratulate him or whatever. So
that's cool. I'm happy for Zach LaVine in that case because of the fact that dude's been in every All-Star game forever and never got to play in the All-Star game.
And I'm pretty sure he said he is not doing the dunk contest this year. So
yeah, after last year, he said he wasn't going to do it anymore. I do remember him saying that.
Yeah. So anyway, that I love that stuff. We could go over all the guys that we think should be in there, but like we said, you can't say he should be in there unless you say who he's taking the place of, and we don't have any of those. So I say it's time to move into our Mount Rushmore for the week.
I love it. Let's get into Mount Rushmore, bud. This was a really good one that you came up with after we did the Adam Sandler, the Mount Rushmore of Adam Sandler movies. Adam has been thinking about the Mount Rushmore of Will Ferrell movies ever since. So here we are, Mount Rushmore of Will Ferrell movies. Adam, I thought this was pretty easy. This was easy for me, to be honest. It was way easier than I thought it was going to be. They have he's got so many movies that are phenomenal and that are great. But there's four that set them. There's probably five that set themselves apart. But four of them were automatics for me. So I'll go ahead and go first. So these are in specific order. Old School, my all-time favorite Will Ferrell movie. Anchorman, second, and I just put all the Anchormen together, the both of them or whatever. It's Anchorman. And then in no particular order at the bottom, Step Brothers and Elf. Going back to the 80s here.
Was he Alf?
He would have been a great Alf.
He would have been a great Alf.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves eating cats and whatever other Alf things that I can't remember now. But I love that show. All right, so you're right, and I wasn't sure if we were counting Old School or not. I couldn't remember because he was one of the guys in that.
He was absolutely a prominent character in Old School. He was one of the four guys. Frank the Tank.
He was. Yep.
He wasn't just some dude. It wasn't like Wedding Crashers. He was one of the four guys or three guys. Yeah. Yeah, one of the three guys. It was him. Guys, yeah, him, Vince Vaughn, and
Owen Wilson.
Wilson, the other Wilson.
Or not Owen. Yeah.
It's his brother.
Luke
Wilson.
Yeah. And whoever we said, we had the whole Wilson brothers jokes going on a few weeks ago. I can't remember what those were about, but I wish I could remember that. All right.
Either.
So this is all right. So in that case, it might change something for me, but my first two were automatic. Anchorman and Step Brothers to me are top two for sure.
Easy.
So
you didn't have him in because on the Old School side of things?
Well, I wrote it down with a question mark because I couldn't remember if we had talked about last week that because we said for sure that he didn't count in Wedding Crashers.
Right.
Even though he was the funniest part of that whole movie.
He was by far the funniest part of the whole movie.
But that didn't count because he didn't even show up until an hour into the thing. So in that case, I had Anchorman. I'm just going to tell you, I had Anchorman, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, and I went semi-pro.
I liked semi-pro, and Talladega Nights was good. I got it up there. Zoolander was the one that I left off because I thought old boy was hilarious in Zoolander. I just didn't like the movie all that much. I thought the movie was out there. But his character on that was by far the funniest part of that movie.
I've never seen Zoolander from start to finish. I've seen it. I've seen it
bits and pieces and all that stuff. Yeah.
But so I didn't have that on my list, but I mean, I was really, really close on The Campaign. His character wasn't as funny as he is in some other things, but the movie's so funny to me. And really that's more Zach Galifianakis was unbelievable in that movie, but just those two are a dream team for me. So I just wrote it down as another one. The Other Guys. Did you ever see The Other Guys?
I've never seen The Other Guys. That was one that I was looking at. Full House. I've seen Full House. That was pretty funny for what the movie was. Have you seen that?
No.
Where they turn him and his wife are trying to make some money.
Bob Saget and John Stamos.
They're trying to not that. They're trying to make money to send their kids to whatever. So they basically turn their house into a casino. It's hilarious. And The Daddy's Home. I mean, come on, man. Those were hilarious.
Never saw those.
But I thought Mark Wahlberg was funnier in those, which is, that whole dynamic was fun though. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell, the dynamic those two played in those movies were absolutely hilarious. Get Hard with Kevin Hart.
Mm-hmm. Had that on my list.
That was a good one. I love that. That was pretty funny for, but it still did not compete with any of the ones that we have at the top. So what did you end up putting Old School in there or no?
I if Old School is eligible, then you know what? No, I'm sticking with my 4. I'm
Wow.
going Talladega Nights.
Old School is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Mine too. Absolutely mine too. And he's
No, I mean like, so if it's one of your all-time favorite movies, is Talladega Nights one of your all-time favorite movies?
no, but this is
We're
I
talking
feel
about
like
Will Ferrell in the movie.
yeah, to me that's what it kind of
Yeah.
is for me. Yeah. So yeah, but
Snoop,
we said Will Ferrell
Snoop.
movies, so it really should probably be the movie itself that Will Ferrell is in. But I don't know. I just went with these, and I'm a little partial to Semi-Pro probably because it's a basketball movie, and
Yeah.
it's I think it's one of his more underrated movies. I don't feel like people talk about Semi-Pro a lot when they're talking about Will Ferrell movies, and I thought it was really funny. So and tons of really good cameo appearances in that. Um,
When that movie came out and he went on David Letterman in
Jackie
the
Moon.
basketball, oh my god, that was funny.
I'll tell you what, going through his, pulled up his IMDb page just to, make sure I wasn't forgetting anything. And the list is 10 million miles long because of all his appearances on every single talk show you could ever imagine.
Yep.
And appearances in every show you can imagine, even if it's like
Yep.
one guest spot on, one episode of a show. He's been in everything, and he steals the show every time, man. He's so funny.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, he's so good at kind of playing the straight guy, but he plays the serious guy a lot of times, but he's so funny. Just, I don't know. I can't explain why he's so funny sometimes, because he'll say stuff that I think a lot of other people, I feel like I've said this before, a lot of other people can say. And for some reason, because it's coming out of him, it's way funnier.
It's just the way that he puts it out there. You can see it in his eyes. It's the seriousness about something funny. That's why that seriousness is so good. Because what he's saying is stupid funny, and he says it seriously. So it's even more funny.
You watched Eastbound and Down, didn't you?
Not a ton of it. I saw the first couple episodes, and then I watch one every now and then.
He played a recurring character. He might only been in 3 or 4 episodes, but oh my god, unbelievable!
I love to see that.
Find all those clips from the times he was on that show on YouTube. It's so funny. But
have you seen speaking of Eastbound and Down, did you see when he played every position in one day?
Yes.
In the minor or in spring training.
I love that.
That was pretty cool.
Love it. The only other one I think that we haven't mentioned yet that I wrote down was Blades of Glory.
Yes, I forgot about that. Him and the guy from the geek from
Napoleon Dynamite.
That's
John
it.
Heater.
Yes, that was good when they had to do that move, and I can't remember what the move was called, but they kept practicing. They weren't going to do it, and they like set up a dummy on a rope, and he kept slicing the dummy's head off with his skate. That kid's looking around like, absolutely not. I am not doing that. That was hilarious.
So the only other thing that jumped out at me, and this doesn't have anything to do with the funniest Will Ferrell movies ever, but I'm trying to remember what role he played in Austin Powers. He was in Austin Powers.
What?
I don't remember.
The original? What? Not the original.
The original. Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, I'm pretty sure. It was 99. I'm pretty sure that was the year it came out. So he was in that in 99.
Oh, yeah. He had the little red goofy hat. He was an assassin. He tried to kill Austin Powers. He was one of the guys Dr. Evil sent to kill Austin Powers. He was Mustafa. That was his name in it, Mustafa.
I have to go back and
I
check.
do remember that now. God, he did play little silly stuff like that all the time.
And the one thing that I thought was really funny to see was one of his first acting credits in 1995. He was on an episode of Living Single.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
No way.
The episode was called like The Annoying Neighbor or something. So I don't know if he played the annoying neighbor, but
Oh, he would play that so well.
yeah,
He would play that so well.
Living Single. Oh,
Austin Powers is driving. Oh, you can't see because of his background.
oh, there
And
you go.
Mustafa's behind him. That's him behind him in there. He's shooting at him there.
Oh, okay.
He's trying to kill him. He had this goofy red hat on.
Huh.
Anyway, yeah.
Totally forgot
There you
about
go.
that.
So that was great podcast for if you were watching that. But
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you're listening, just hit the 30-second forward button or whatever it is.
yes, exactly. So that being said, now I'm just now I got to know where when he was on Living Single, because that I'm gonna watch that episode if I can watch that episode of Living Single.
I know, I gotta find that. Okay, so anyway, while you're looking for that, we have our Will Ferrell Mount Rushmore. So we shared, what did we had the Anchorman and Step Brothers. I think those were the only two that we had in common, right? Because you had Anchorman, Step Brothers, Old School, and Elf. Yeah. So we had
That's
Anchorman
right.
and Step
Yep.
Brothers in common there. All right. So we go from one funny man to another. And we did something a little bit different again this week. And I know I said it last week, but whenever I've tried to do something other than just a regular stand-up special, it hasn't gone great.
We've not that it hasn't gone great. I just didn't enjoy it.
Just didn't enjoy it. So, but that's part of what we're doing here. Sometimes we pick stuff that, pick comedians that neither one of us have seen yet, or specials that neither one of us have seen, and so it's new for both of us. But usually, if I know somebody and I don't know if you know them or not, I pick them because I think they're good, and I want you to see them because I think you're gonna like it, because I want you to like it. So, but last week I picked the Patrice O'Neal, the documentary about Patrice O'Neal that was on Comedy Central this past week. So, called Killing is Easy. Do you want to start, Chris? Just give your thoughts.
So, I guess I never realized how, I don't know if the word depressed is the right word, even though he used it a ton of times, but how, I mean, I knew the dude was a little different, but I still just always saw him as just another comic, right? Like he was just a really funny comedian. But this dude was definitely different. And once again, these comedians come up in these groups. It seems like all the best comedians have these like comedic groups that they hang out with at all these places, and this was no different. Kevin Hart and Quinn, whatever his name is, I don't even know his name, and that tells you how great it is. But every one of them are really good comedians to this day, and they all basically said that he was the best out of all. Like he was by far the best. There was nobody any better. It was not even close.
Yeah, when Bill Burr is
yep.
one of your best friends, and you come up with him, and he is among that group, probably the best one. And you had Bill Burr, Bobby Kelly, Dane Cook,
Dane
Jim
Cook, that was
Norton.
the other one. Yeah,
I
Jim
mean,
Norton.
Yeah, and you're right. All those guys say Patrice was the best.
Yep.
So that's really impressive. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder there. Go ahead.
No, you just helped me with names that I can never think of as I'm talking. Anyway, I love documentaries, right? I get into documentaries all the time about people or biographies or whatever you want to call them. I love getting into seeing like all the behind the scenes stuff. And I'm going to tell you the thing I took away the most from this entire thing, the entire show, was his relationship with his stepdaughter, and how the stepdaughter walked out and came out after he died and said, I want to speak at Patrice's funeral because I want everyone to know. Everybody's going to talk about his comedy and funny guy, but everybody needs to know how great of a dad he was. And I was like, man, that's the stuff that, that's the stuff that hits home to you, that as much as that dude joked about his, his girlfriend and his stepdaughter and blah, 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 whatever, everything, you know what I mean? And then you hear that and you're like, man, he was just a good dude. He didn't exactly know where he was going in this comedy thing. I don't think he really ever had an idea. It seemed like he didn't really have an idea because he was so mean, maybe, to all those, I guess is the way you put it, to all the producers and directors of all these things that they wanted him to be in, and he would be in them for a little bit and that would be it. And he burned a ton of bridges because he wanted to do things his way or the highway and couldn't take direction from anybody. But in the end, the dude was besides being super funny, was a hell of a guy. So I don't know. It sucks that the guy couldn't take care of himself a little bit better. I know they did what'd she say, 3 years of being a vegan. You can do 3 years being a vegan, but if you let that diabetes take hold of you since you knew it since he was in his 20s or something and never did a thing about it until he was almost 40. Man, sucks.
Yeah. The thing that jumped out to me the most was, whenever somebody passes away, people always say nice things about them, almost always, right?
Yep.
This was one of the few people that you heard even his friends say, not a very nice guy, actually kind of a jerk.
Kind of a jerk in those, but it depended on the situation, right? Like every one of them had these phenomenal memories and great things to say about him. But when it came to comedy and when it came to, movies and show, that kind of stuff, yeah, the guy was kind of a dick to everybody.
He was, but those guys that were closest to him. I mean, there are a bunch of stories about comics coming up after him who were terrified of him, and he was mean to everybody. When he was in the same room, he would like basically taunt them and or just say things like, "Oh God, you don't belong here." Like he would just tell people that.
Threw phone books up at Kevin Hart while he was up there.
Yeah. So that was interesting to me that, he was kind of known. It seems like he had a reputation of being a jerk, and a lot of people didn't love him. But he had his close friends that he was with, and he started out in Boston with those guys, with Bill Burr and Bobby Kelly and those guys. And then when they started going to New York, then they started hanging out with Keith Robinson and Jim Norton and Rich Voss and all those guys. And they all loved him, but it was like they were constantly like breaking each other.
You had to be on your toes. Yeah, you had to be on your toes. But if you're a comedian, your whole life is to be up there messing with people. Like if you got a group of you guys together, I couldn't even imagine how talk about thick skin people. Like you better have like steel skin. Like it's got to be that thick
with him. Yeah. Because comedians talk all the time about how that's one of their favorite parts of the job is the hang. They talk about hanging out, at the cellar or whatever, upstairs at the cellar or wherever, at these clubs and the green rooms and stuff like that, and just sitting there, drinking and eating and just messing with each other constantly. And Bill Burr even said it became like a job. Every time he knew he was going to see, which was most nights, he knew he was going to see Patrice, he had to come up with like 5 comebacks before he got there.
Before he ever got there.
Because as soon as he walked in, Patrice would just be like, "Oh God, why are you even here?" He would have to have something to come back. So it does. It sounds like that's most comedians one of their favorite parts of the job, but he was so over the top, and guys even said he would cross the line. And that's hard to do to comedians. Comedians, most of them think you can't cross a line. There's not even a line.
Right.
And at least those guys. And but they said he would even cross the line sometimes, and it was which is is crazy to think about. But like you said, aside from all that, you know, they talked about, everybody talked about that, and they talked about, but we loved him. He was so much fun. He was so good. We learned all the time because just by watching him, because he was so good. And yeah, you're right. He was just had the word and it's gone now, but like he wanted to do everything differently. He didn't want to do anything the way that anybody else wanted him to do it.
He
And
had his way, and if you wanted to do it differently, then he didn't want to be doing it with you.
yeah, right. So, and that, I mean, he was successful. I mean, he probably would have ended up being more successful if he stuck around, if he was healthy and still alive, obviously.
After, because I'm gonna tell you right now, that's special. So I watched it. I watched the special afterwards.
So did I.
Like it came on Comedy Central afterwards, and that was one of the. I mean, that's as funny as special as I've ever seen. That guy is good. That guy was, and I think it was Jim Norton who was saying when he got that hour special through Comedy Central, when he got that special, and went up there and did it. Jim Norton's like he put it all together. That was the first time he's seen it. It was him at his prime. He he that he had put it all together. If he could have gotten 2 or 3 more of those, we'd be talking about him forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it was only like, was it like 10 months later after that special
Yeah.
release that he
Yeah.
died or had a stroke?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Elephant in the Room, by the way, was the name of the special that he did. It was really, really funny. I don't know. I wrote down a couple notes from like jokes that I saw of his throughout the thing, and he was talking about like when he first started, he would talk about like the really mean subjects all the time, but he talked about fat people, and he talked about uh like organize, like being like people wanted him to like be the leader for fat people or something. He's like, what are we gonna do? March? The £1,000,000 march?
£1,000,000 march.
What am I, Malcolm XXL? Anyway, that I wrote that down from that, and then I wrote restaurant because he was talking about, and that's from Elephant.
Let me tell you, that joke from his special, the typing joke, right? And then it led into being able to have a gun to his mom's head, and you got to be able to spell restaurant for her to survive. Let me tell you that restaurant is the one word I don't think I've ever in my life spelled correctly. Every time it's read. That familiar is another one for me. I never spell familiar right. What was the other one here? Tomorrow. Everyone he had up there, I was like, yes, that's right. And then he said banana. BAN. Then like 7 of them. And oh my God, I was dying laughing. He got that gap tooth going, and
he was good. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know.
I guess we have to rate it though, don't we? We
I was
going to
say, do we
what we
give it
do.
Haas?
Yeah, we got a Haas. How many Haas are you going to give it?
Is it how funny it is, or just how good you thought it was?
This has got to be about how good the special was.
I agree with you. I'm going to give this a 4.6.
I'm going to give it a 5.
Oh,
I'm going to give it the most you can give it. This is the best. There wasn't a bad part of the special. I'm doing that because it wasn't a comedy special. If we were rating the Elephant in the Room comedy special, I'd be around a 4 to 4.2.
Oh,
But since we're doing the whatever the show was called, whatever the documentary or whatever on it was, that's what we watched. Then I'm gonna go with a 5 because it was awesome. I learned more during that hour than I ever could have dreamed about that dude.
yep. I would like to see more documentaries about comedians. All right, so congratulations to you and to the podcast on the very first 5 either one of us has ever given, I think.
Wow, there you go. Yeah.
I think. So there you go. 5, although 5 with an asterisk, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
5 with an asterisk. Maybe Bill
Definitely
Crystal
with
will
an
make a
asterisk.
movie about it someday.
All right, so that brings us to I get to decide the comedy segment for next week, and I get to decide the Mount Rushmore. So I'll start with the comedy segment. Brand new on Netflix, just came out. Brian Regan on the rocks. I know Adam's excited about it. He just lost an arm. He's so excited. If you're watching on YouTube, he's got no arms right now.
Just
One arm, no arms, just a head. This is my new favorite thing that we have on the podcast, by the way. So we're gonna do Brian Regan on the rocks, and I have to also come up with a Mount Rushmore. So my Mount Rushmore is
lumber companies in the Hyde Park area.
There's only one, brother.
Oh.
So winner.
Right, so forget
winner,
about
winner,
that
chicken dinner. Yep, winner, chicken dinner. Let's say, can we go with I want to do the Mount Rushmore of Sacramento Kings.
Oh, wow. All right. So here's my question about this.
All right.
The Sacramento Kings were a franchise in 2 or 3 other places before they went to Sacramento. Does all of that count, or just since they've been in Sacramento?
That depends. Where were they in what years and stuff like that?
Well, they were in Cincinnati. They were the Cincinnati Royals.
Oh, that's where the Royals came from?
That's where the Royals
I didn't
were.
even know that. If that's the case, no, just Sacramento Kings.
Just Sacramento Kings. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm excited because I'll tell you, the Sacramento Kings of the early and mid 2000s, one of my favorite teams ever.
Real. Well, of course, as a Michigan fan, the Chris Webber years were obviously some of your favorites.
The Chris Webber Kings.
Is Chris Webber the greatest Sacramento King?
I guess you'll have to tune in next week to find out.
Oh, well done. Well done with the cliffhanger. Man, on that note, as far as I'm concerned, this is easy. Brian Regan on the rocks. The I don't even know where I came up with Sacramento Kings. I have nothing in here that says Sacramento Kings. I was trying to think of the most off the wall team that you can't just automatically think of a Hall of Famer right off your head. So Brian Regan on the rocks, Mount Rushmore, greatest Sacramento Kings of all time. Until then, don't forget to turn your headlights on.